This is chapter 1 for the introduction to economics. We're looking at introducing the economic way of thinking. Economics is really a social science. We're looking at how people behave, how businesses make choices and decisions with their scarce resources. And so this is an introductory chapter looking at concepts, words that we may have used in everyday language, but now we're going to apply them to economics. Economics is all about organizing your thoughts, understanding, decision making. We're looking at logical reasoning and how we come up with a decision. And again, this chapter is going to give us the terminology to do that. Scarcity. Now, if you all were here in class with me, I would ask how many of you wish there were just a few more hours than 24 in a day, or you wish your bank account had a little bit more money, um, more time for traveling, obviously, before this pandemic. We all have scarce resources, businesses included, government, everybody has scarce resources, therefore, we have to make choices. Whether we're talking about money, time, energy, we're limited. We're limited in the products. A good means an actual physical, tangible item like a computer or a television or a file cabinet. That is something that we have a limited amount of. Even though we have unlimited wants, scarce resources means that we have to make choices. We can't do all of the things on our list. We only have so much money in our account. So we have to pay rent, we have to pay bills, we have to buy food, have to buy gas, and then whatever's left over, then we can make choices. Resources in economics deals with not money, it deals with an actual input. So something that's going to be used to make a final product, which includes a good, remember that's a tangible object, and a service, and that's more of an intangible object, such as having somebody to mow your yard or cut your trees, or when you go to the doctor. So goods and services are included. 3 categories of resources. These are sometimes called factors of production. In other books, land, labor, and capital. So land, any natural resource provided by nature. So the property that you have to build your office on, for example. Labor, this is all of your workers, the physical capability, their knowledge to produce goods and services. Capital does not mean money in economics. This is physical capital. So this is machinery and equipment that is going to be used. Lumber, for example, to build a table, the screws that go into the chair that you're sitting on. Remember, resources or factors of production, these are all things that are going to be used in the production process to make a final product. Entrepreneurship is also a resource, and that is dealing with the creative ability of including risk taking in order to make new products. So, economics, as we said, deals with decision making, and we have a whole bunch of wants, but we have scarce resources. We have scarce resources. Remember the land, labor, and capital. So we're going to have to make choices. And that deals with economics as a whole. Macroeconomics is one sub category of economics, and as you might be able to tell from the title, deals with decision making for the economy as a whole. So in the news right now, you're hearing about the unemployment situation. You're hearing about economic growth and GDP, or gross domestic product. We'll learn about that in a future chapter. So those are things that impact our nation as a whole. Microeconomics is another branch, and that deals with certain industries. So maybe the airline industry or the auto industry, and is dealing with a sector of our economy. Well, now that you know that economics is all about studying the decisions, um, the process by which we make decisions, economists are called upon a lot to make predictions about people's decisions, or make predictions about even policy. What should we do in terms of the macroeconomy? Maybe the unemployment rate is too high, or maybe the inflation rate is too high. What should we do about it? And to answer those questions, economists are called upon to explain how things work, and they do that with a model. And a model is a very, very simplified version of reality that's looking at relationships between two variables. And the power of a model is to be able to predict what is going to happen in the future. So if we provide this much of a stimulus in the form of stimulus checks or unemployment benefits to the economy, then what will happen? That would be an example of a question in which an economist would need to use a model. So first, finding the problem, then developing the model. By the way, in real life, we usually use mathematical models, regression analysis, for example, to come up with a formula to help economists solve problems and try to explain how things work, and then testing that theory. Sometimes they'll go back and revise. So you might notice these steps might seem familiar to you if you've ever done a science fair project in school. It's the same exact thing. So even though economics is a social science, we still use the scientific method, the same one that the biologists and physicists use. And again, if the evidence supports the model, then that's a good way to explain how things work. If not, it is rejected, and we come up with a new model. Because models are such simplified versions of reality, we do need to make assumptions. One assumption that we use in economics is called ceteris paribus, and it literally means all else equal. It means nothing else in the world besides the two variables that we're working with in our problem are that nothing else is changing. They're all staying the same. So if I ask you, if you had $10 and a t-shirt cost $10 and you really wanted to buy it, and it was, let's just pretend it's a tax-free weekend, then you would buy one. Now, if you really like this t-shirt and then the price was still $10, and you had more income, let's say you had $20, you might buy two. Now, the two variables that we're looking at in this scenario is how much money you have, right? And how much you would buy, how many t-shirts would you buy? So we're looking at price based off of assuming that you have a certain amount of money. So I'm sorry, the variables that we're looking at is price and quantity demanded based off of how much money that you have. We're assuming that you like the t-shirt. We're assuming that you are allowed to wear t-shirts at your job. We're assuming that there's not disruption in the supply chain where this t-shirt is not going to be available to you to buy. So ceteris paribus means everything else we're not going to worry about. We're going to pretend it's the same. It's just how many t-shirts would you buy for this price? Confusing association with causation is another common pitfall. So if I told you that all the students who sit on the first row make A's in my class, that's association. So sitting on the front row doesn't cause you to get an A. It's that students who sit on the front row tend to care about their grades, want to do well in the class. So you can't say that just sitting there at the front will give you an A in the class. It's, people who sit at the front tend to be a hardworking student. And we've gone through ceteris paribus. A couple other terms and definitions. Positive economics. So this isn't positive as in, oh, today is your birthday. This is a true or false statement. And so can you verify the statement? My computer is black. The unemployment rate is 4.5. So it's something that you can verify. Well, the example from August of 2010 was 9.5. That's one example. Normative economics. So remember when I said that, let me go back. Remember when I said that economists use models to explain? They use positive statements. So something that can be verified. They've used a model to come up to explain a relationship. This is what happened. This is why the unemployment rate is what it is. And then also economists are called upon to make policy recommendations too. Should we raise minimum wage? Should we provide a second stimulus check? So normative economic statements deal with value judgments. So whenever you see that word should or needs to be, the government ought to make sure that people who are in need of housing help can housing assistance can get it. That's all normative. Those are all normative statements. And that's chapter 1. I hope you enjoyed this introduction of things to come, and we will talk more about these topics in detail in the coming chapters. Thank you.